The stars had always called to humanity. For thousands of years, people looked up at the night sky and wondered what waited for them out there. When humans finally built ships that could travel between stars, they expected to find wonders. They expected to find friends. What they found instead was a galaxy that looked down on them with cold eyes. The Galactic Assembly ruled over 12 star systems. They were old species, powerful species, and they had been traveling between worlds when humans still lived in caves. When their ships first appeared over Earth in the year 2847, humans greeted them with hope and excitement. The aliens did not share these feelings. Admiral Park. Doan was only a boy when the Valari came to Earth. He remembered standing with his grandfather in the streets of Seoul, watching the massive crystal ships block out the sun. The Valari were tall beings made of something that looked like living glass. They moved slowly and spoke even slower, as if talking to humans was a waste of their time. Primitive, the Valari ambassador had announced after spending 3 days on Earth. These creatures have barely learned to leave their own planet. Perhaps they can serve as workers. That word primitive would echo through human history for the next 300 years. The Galactic Assembly gave humanity a small place in their order. Humans received membership, but it was membership without respect. They were given planets to live on, but only the planets no other species wanted. Cold rocks. Burning deserts. Worlds where nothing grew without great effort. Ambassador Kim Yuna had spent her entire life dealing with the Assembly. She was now 60 years old, with white hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. Every day she sat in meetings where alien diplomats treated her like a servant. Every day she smiled and nodded, and wrote reports that her government quietly filed. Away, the Tarathi delegate called us the galaxy's cleaning staff again. Today, she told her assistant after one particularly bad meeting. He said it while looking right at me. The others laughed. Her assistant, a young man named Kong Juno, clenched his fists. Why do we accept this? Why don't we fight back? Yuna shook her head slowly. Fighting requires strength. We don't have strength. Not yet. That last part was important. Not yet. What the galaxy did not know, what no alien species suspected, was that humanity had been preparing for something. For 300 years, while humans smiled and bowed and accepted every insult, they had been building in secret. General Lee Suho commanded Project Horizon. It was the most secret program in human history. Hidden in an asteroid field that no alien had ever visited, 12 massive shipyards worked day and night. They built ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. They created weapons that used science the Assembly thought impossible. Suho was a patient man. He had to be. His father had worked on Project Horizon before him, and his grandfather before that. 3 generations of his family had dedicated their lives to one simple goal, making sure humanity would never be helpless again. Status report. Suho said during his weekly meeting with the project leaders. Dr. Yoon Yoonbi, the lead scientist, pulled up a display. The quantum disruption torpedoes are ready for mass production. We've tested them on captured Valari technology. One torpedo can shut down an entire battleship. The fleet, 400 capital ships, 8,000 support vessels. Crew training is 92% complete. Suho nodded. Good. Keep pushing. We may need to move sooner than planned. He had heard the reports. The Valari were getting bolder. They had started making demands, demanding that humans give up their farming colonies, demanding that humans stop building ships, demanding that humans remember their place. On Earth, President Baek Juwoo dealt with these demands daily. She was a strong woman, chosen by her people to lead them through difficult times. But even she felt tired some days. They want our agricultural world, she said during a cabinet meeting. The Valari claim we violated some trade agreement from 200 years ago. It's a lie, of course. They just want our food production. Defense Minister Hong Minho leaned forward. If we refuse, they may use force. If we accept, they'll demand more. That's how it always works. Give them something, and they take everything. The room fell silent. Everyone knew the situation was getting worse. Everyone knew that something would have to change. In her office late at night, President Jiwoo looked at classified files that few people had ever seen. Project Horizon. She knew every detail. She knew what humanity had built in those hidden shipyards. She knew that if she gave the order, everything would change forever. But she also knew the cost. War meant death. War meant destruction. War meant that many of her people would never come home. Was she ready to pay that price? Were the people of Earth ready? She thought about her daughter Mina, who was 8 years old. She thought about what kind of galaxy Mina would grow up in. Would it be a galaxy where humans were forever treated as lesser beings? Would it be a galaxy where any alien species could attack human worlds without fear? No, Giwoo whispered to herself. Not if I can help it. Across the galaxy, on a world called New Busan, life continued normally. It was humanity's largest farming colony, home to 3 million people. They grew food that fed dozens of human worlds. They lived simple lives, raising families, building communities, hoping for peace. Chomira was 25 years old and worked as a communications officer at the colony's main station. She spent her days sending messages between worlds, talking to ships that passed through the system, and dreaming of someday traveling to distant stars. She had no way of knowing that her world would soon become the center of everything. She had no way of knowing that the message she would send in 3 months would start a war that changed the galaxy forever. But that was still in the future. For now, she simply did her job and watched the stars through her window. Wondering what tomorrow would bring, tomorrow would bring fire. Tomorrow would bring death. Tomorrow would bring a war that no one expected, and everyone would remember. Humanity had waited 300 years. Their patience was almost at an end. The attack came on a Tuesday morning. Chomira was drinking her coffee when the alarms started screaming. Red lights flashed across the communications center. She ran to her station and saw something that made her blood turn cold. 200 ships had appeared in orbit above New Busan. They were Valari warships. "This is New Busan Colony calling any human vessel," she said into her communicator, trying to keep her voice steady. "We are under attack. Repeat, we are under attack. Valari warships are firing on civilian areas. Request immediate help." Request. The building shook. The lights went out. When Mira looked at her screens again, they were all dead. The Valari had destroyed the communications tower. Outside, the crystal ships were raining fire on the colony. Buildings exploded. Streets burned. People ran screaming through smoke and chaos. Trying to find shelter that did not exist, the Valari commander was named Vesix. He sat aboard his flagship and watched the destruction with cold satisfaction. Humans were weak creatures. They had no real military. They had no way to fight back. This attack would teach them to obey. "Broadcast a message to Earth," Vesix ordered. "Tell them to surrender their outer colonies. Tell them this is what happens when they forget their place." On Earth, the news arrived like a hammer blow. President Baek Jiwoo was in a meeting when her aide rushed in with a pale face. "Madam President, New Busan, the Valari are. They're attacking. Civilians are dying." Giwoo stood so quickly that her chair fell over. "How many ships? What are our defenses doing?" 200 Valari warships. Our defense force has 12 patrol vessels. They didn't last long." The president closed her eyes. She thought of the 3 million people on New Busan. She thought of families being torn apart. She thought of children dying under alien weapons. When she opened her eyes again, they were hard as stone. "Call the military council. Now, every member. This is not a drill." Within the hour, the most powerful people in human civilization sat around a table in a bunker deep beneath the capital. They watched video feeds from New Busan burning cities, bodies in the streets, survivors crying for help that would not come. Admiral Park Do-won spoke first. 17,000 dead already. The Valari aren't even trying to take the colony. They're just destroying it. They want to make an example. Can we negotiate? Someone asked. Ambassador Kim Yuna shook her head. Her face showed anger that 3 centuries of diplomacy had never broken. "I know the Valari. They don't negotiate with species they consider inferior. They give orders. We either obey or they keep killing. Then what do we do? General Lee Suho leaned forward. His voice was calm, but his eyes burned. We use Project Horizon. We show the galaxy what humanity really is. The room went quiet. Everyone knew about Project Horizon, but few had ever believed they would actually use it. The plan was simple but terrifying. Reveal everything humanity had built in secret, and strike back so hard that no species would ever threaten them again. Defense Minister Minho raised a concern. If we attack the Volari, the entire assembly will respond. We'll be at war with a dozen species. Suho shook his head. No, the assembly is not a true alliance. Each species cares only about itself. The Volari have enemies among the other races. If we hit hard enough, the others will stay out of it. They'll wait to see who wins. And if you're wrong, then we fight them all. Suho's voice held no doubt. We're ready. We've been ready for 50 years. President Jiwoo listened to the debate. She watched the video feeds. She saw a young mother carrying a dead child through smoking ruins. She saw old men digging through rubble with their bare hands. She saw everything that humanity had built on New Busan being turned to ash. Admiral Park, she said quietly. The room fell silent. Is Project Horizon ready for full deployment? Yes, Madam President. How quickly can we respond? Our first strike force can reach New Busan in 6 hours. Full fleet deployment in 12. Wu stood. She was not tall, but in that moment she seemed to fill the entire room. For 300 years, we have tried peace. We have tried diplomacy. We have smiled at aliens who treated us like animals. We did this because we believed peace was possible. We did this because we hoped the galaxy would learn to respect us. She paused. Her hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. They answered our hope with murder. They answered our patience with fire. Today, they killed our people because they thought we were too weak to stop them. She looked at each person around the table. They were wrong. The declaration of war was broadcast on every frequency, in every language, to every corner of the galaxy. President Jiwoo read it herself, standing straight and looking directly into the camera. To the Galactic Assembly. For 300 years, humanity has accepted your contempt. We have worked in your factories. We have grown food for your tables. We have served you faithfully, asking only for respect in return. You gave us nothing but cruelty. Today, the Valeri Imperium attacked our people without warning. They killed civilians. They destroyed cities. They did this because they believed we were powerless to respond. They believed wrong. As of this moment, the United Earth Government declares war on the Volari Imperium. We call on all other species to remain neutral. Those who join the Volari will share their fate. Those who stay out of this conflict will be remembered as friends when the fighting ends. It is... After that time, we will destroy them. There will be no second warning. Across the galaxy, alien species watch this broadcast with confusion and amusement. Humans declaring war? The primitives who could barely build a decent starship? It had to be a joke. The Volari commander Thesix laughed when he saw the message. 12 hours? Let them come. My fleet will crush whatever pitiful force they send. He did not know that death was already on its way. He did not know that everything he believed about humans was about to be proven wrong. In hidden shipyards throughout human space, engines roared to life. 400 warships that the galaxy did not know existed began their journey. Crews who had trained their entire lives for this moment took their stations. Admiral Park Do-won stood on the bridge of his flagship, the HSS Vengeance. He looked at the stars ahead and thought about his grandfather, who had watched the Volari arrive on Earth so many years ago. "This is for everyone they hurt," he said quietly. "This is for every insult, every cruelty, every person who died because they thought we were weak." He gave the order to jump. The war had begun. The Volari fleet waited above New Busan like a cloud of crystal daggers. Commander Thesix had positioned his 200 warships in a defensive formation, ready to destroy whatever small force the humans sent. He expected perhaps 20 or 30 primitive vessels. He expected an easy victory. When his sensors detected 50 human ships jumping into the system, he smiled. 50 ships against 200? These creatures are even more foolish than I thought. His weapons officer prepared to fire. Then the readings came in, and the smile disappeared from Thesix's face. "Commander, these ships... They don't match anything in our database. Their energy signatures are unlike any human technology we've seen. Impossible. Humans have no advanced technology. They've been using ships we sold them as scrap. Commander, the lead vessel is targeting us." On the bridge of the HSS Retribution, Captain Shinhyan watched the enemy fleet through his tactical display. His ship was smaller than the Volari flagship, but he knew something the aliens did not. Size did not matter when your weapons could break the laws of physics. "Target the enemy command ship," Hyun ordered calmly. "Load quantum disruption torpedo. Fire on my mark." His weapons officer, Lieutenant Namsora, entered the commands. "Torpedo ready, Captain." "Fire." A single torpedo streaked across the void. The Volari point defense systems tried to shoot it down, but the torpedo moved in ways their computers could not predict. It seemed to blink in and out of existence, appearing closer with each flash. When it struck the flagship, there was no explosion. Instead, something far worse happened. Every light on the crystal ship went dark. Every system shut down. The quantum field that powered all Volari technology simply collapsed. Leaving the vessel dead in space, Thesix floated in sudden darkness. Emergency lights flickered weakly. Around him, his crew scrambled in panic. What happened? What did they hit us with? No one could answer. Nothing like this had ever happened before, on the human ships. Captain Han allowed himself a small smile. Dr. Yoon Yoonbi's team had done their work well. The quantum disruption technology was everything they had promised and more. All ships, he broadcast. Engage at will. The battle that followed would be studied in military academies for centuries. 50 human ships faced 200 Volari warships. In 19 minutes, 187 Volari vessels were either destroyed or disabled. Human casualties, 0. The remaining Volari ships fled. Some jumped to faster than light speed and escaped. Others were captured before they could run. Commander Thesix was pulled from his dead flagship and taken prisoner. Still unable to understand what had happened, news of the battle spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. In every alien capital, leaders watched the recordings with growing horror. The humans, the primitive, servile humans, had destroyed a Volari battle group without losing a single ship. "This changes everything," the Tarathi ambassador said to his council. "If the humans have this technology, they could threaten any of us. Then we must unite against them. Call for an assembly response." But even as they debated, more reports arrived. Human fleets were attacking Volari military bases throughout their territory. Each battle ended the same way. Total human victory. Minimal human losses. Fleet Commander Osera led the assault on the Volari's third largest naval base. Her task force of 80 ships jumped directly into the enemy's defensive. To perimeter something that should have been impossible. Volari doctrine said that ships could not accurately jump into contested space. They would arrive scattered, vulnerable, easy to destroy. Human ships arrived in perfect formation. Weapons already firing. "This is Commander O to all enemy vessels." Syrah broadcast as explosions lit up the void around her. "You have 60 seconds to surrender." After that time, we will destroy everything that moves. Most of the Valari ships surrendered. The few that tried to fight were gone in moments. Back on Earth, the mood was one of grim satisfaction rather than celebration. Admiral Park Do-han gave his reports to the president, detailing each victory, each captured base, each step closer to the Valari homeworld. They're asking for talks, Do-han said. The Valari government wants to negotiate.
Oh.
President Ji-woo shook her head. No negotiations until they've surrendered completely. No deals that let them rebuild and threaten us again. They made their choice when they attacked New Busan. Some of the assembly species are demanding we stop. The Tarathi are threatening to join the war on the Valari side. Ambassador Kim Yuna, who had just returned from a tense communication with alien diplomats, spoke up. The Tarathi are bluffing. I've been watching their fleet movements. They're pulling ships back from the border, not sending them forward. They're afraid. Afraid of us. Afraid of what we might do to them if they interfere. Yuna smiled, and there was cold pleasure in it. For the first time in 300 years, an alien species is afraid of humanity. Let's keep it that way. The war continued. Human forces pushed deeper into Valari space. Every world they captured, they treated fairly. Civilians were protected. Prisoners were fed and housed properly. When Valari cities surrendered without fighting, human soldiers made sure the lights stayed on and the food kept flowing. This was not the war the galaxy expected. They expected savage humans burning everything in revenge. Instead, they saw disciplined armies that followed strict rules of conduct. They saw enemies treated with dignity even in defeat. General Lee Suho explained the strategy to his officers before the final push toward the Valari homeworld. We are not fighting to destroy the Valari. We are fighting to end the threat they pose. When this war ends, we will have to live with our former enemies. If we commit crimes now, they will hate us forever. If we treat them fairly, there might be real peace someday. And if they refuse to surrender, then we keep taking their worlds until they have no choice. Suho's face hardened, but we do it cleanly. We do it right. We are better than what they think we are. It's time to prove it. The Valari homeworld had the strongest defenses in their empire. Thousands of weapons platforms orbited the planet. Hundreds of warships guarded every approach. The Valari had been building these defenses for centuries. Human forces destroyed them in 4 days. On the 5th day, Admiral Park Do-han's fleet entered orbit over the Valari capital. His ships filled the sky like a steel storm, blocking out the light of their sun. Below, billions of Valari looked up and knew that their empire was over. The call for surrender went out. This time, the Valari answered. The surrender ceremony took place aboard the HSS Vengeance, Admiral Park Do-han's flagship. Representatives from the Valari government came in a small shuttle, their crystal bodies dimmed with defeat. They moved slowly, as if each step hurt them. Admiral Do-han waited for them in the main conference room. He wore his formal uniform, decorated with medals he had never thought he would earn. Around him stood his senior officers, their faces showing no emotion. Behind them, cameras recorded everything for the people of Earth and the galaxy beyond. The Valari High Minister entered first. He was ancient by his species standards, his crystal form clouded with age. Behind him came military commanders, diplomats, and advisors. Last of all came Vesix, the commander who had ordered the attack on New Busan. Vesix was in restraints. Human guards kept him separate from the others. High Minister Do-han said, his voice formal and cold. You know why you are here? The alien's voice sounded like breaking glass. We come to discuss terms of peace. Peace. Do-han shook his head. You attacked our colony without warning. You killed 60,000 of our people. The time for discussing peace was before your ships opened fire on civilians.
We
made a mistake. We did not know you knew exactly what you were doing. You thought we were weak? You thought you could murder our people and face no punishment? Do-han leaned forward. You were wrong. The surrender terms were simple, but absolute. The Valari would give up all military vessels. They would pay reparations to the families of those killed at New Busan. They would allow human observers on their worlds to make sure they followed the agreement. Any violation would mean the war would start again. And this time, there would be no surrender offered. The High Minister listened to each demand. His light dimmed further with each condition, but he had no choice. Human ships surrounded his planet. Human soldiers occupied his colonies. The Valari Empire, which had lasted 8,000 years, had been broken in 3 weeks. "We accept," he said finally. "All your terms." Doan nodded. "One more thing. Commander Thesix will be tried for war crimes. He ordered the attack on civilians. He will face justice for what he did." X started to protest, but the guard silenced him. The other Velar did not even look at him. They had already decided he would take the blame for everything after the officials left. Doan stood alone by the observation window. Stars filled the void beyond the glass. Somewhere out there, New Busan was being rebuilt. Somewhere out there, families were burying their dead. Captain Shinhan joined him quietly. "Sir, the terms have been broadcast to Earth. The President wants to speak with you." Doan nodded but did not move. "We won, Heian. We actually won." "Yes, sir." "We did. Do you know what my grandfather told me when I was young? He said that someday humans would make the galaxy respect us. He died believing it would never happen in his lifetime. Or mine." Dohan finally turned from the window. I wish he could have seen this. On Earth, the news of victory spread through every city and town. People gathered in the streets, not to celebrate, but to remember. 60,000 names were read aloud in memorials across the planet. Candles were lit, tears were shed. President Baek Ji-woo addressed the world that evening. She stood in front of the rebuilt Parliament building, looking tired but determined. Today, the Valari Imperium surrendered to humanity. After 3 weeks of fighting, the war is over. She paused, letting the words sink in. But this is not a moment for celebration. Too many of our people died. Too many families lost loved ones. War is never a victory. It is always a tragedy that we were unable to prevent. However, let this moment also be a promise. A promise that humanity will never again accept injustice. A promise that we will protect our people wherever they live. A promise that the galaxy will learn to see us as we truly are. Not weak, not servants, but equals. Around the world, people listened. Some cried. Some cheered. Most simply felt relief that the fighting was over. In the medical wing of a transport ship heading home, Lieutenant Quantiman lay in a hospital bed. He had been part of the ground assault on a Valari colony and had taken a plasma burn to his leg. The doctor said he would walk again, but it would take time. His squad leader, Sergeant Bay Hannah, came to visit him. She carried fresh fruit from the ship's garden, a small luxury that felt enormous after weeks of combat rations. "How are you feeling?" she asked, sitting beside his bed. "Alive? That's more than some of us can say." Taemin looked at the ceiling. "Did you hear about Kim Ji-hoon?" "He didn't make it," Hannah nodded slowly. Ji-hoon had been the youngest member of their squad. 22 years old. He had talked constantly about the girlfriend waiting for him back on Earth. Heard. They're sending his body home. Full military honors. His girlfriend is pregnant. "Did you know that?" "He told me the night before that last battle. He was going to propose when he got back." Silence filled the room. There was nothing to say. War took people, and the people left behind had to carry the weight of their absence forever. Finally, Hannah spoke. "We won, Timon. That has to mean something. All the people who died, they died so humanity could be free, so their children could grow up in a galaxy that respects us." Does it respect us? Or does it just fear us now? Maybe both. Maybe that's enough. Across human space, similar conversations were happening. People tried to make sense of what they had experienced. They mourned the dead. They welcomed home the living. They started the long process of healing. On New Busan, construction crews worked around the clock. Buildings that had been destroyed were being rebuilt. Parks that had been burned were being replanted. The colony would never be the same, but it would survive, Chomira. The communications officer who had sent the first distress signal walked through the new memorial plaza. The names of the 17,000 people killed in the initial attack were carved into black stone. She found the names of her parents near the middle of the wall. "We won, Mom and Dad," she whispered. "We actually won." She touched their names, feeling the cool stone beneath her fingers. Then she straightened up and walked back to work. There was still so much to do. The war was over. The real work was just beginning. 1 year after the war ended, the galaxy looked very different. The old Galactic Assembly was gone. In its place, humanity had proposed something new, a true federation where every species had an equal voice. Some alien races joined immediately, grateful for the chance to escape the old system where the strong ruled the weak. Others watched carefully, waiting to see if humans would keep their promises. Ambassador Kim Yuna stood before the first meeting of the Galactic Federation Council. The chamber was vast, filled with representatives from a dozen species. Some had fought against humanity. Some had watched from the sidelines. Now, they all sat together, trying to build something better. 300 years ago, Yuna began, humanity came to the stars hoping to find friends. We found instead a galaxy that treated us with contempt. We were called primitive. We were called weak. We were given the worst planets and the hardest work, and told we should be grateful. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of alien delegates who had once dismissed her species as worthless. We could have responded to this cruelty with cruelty of our own. When we won the war, we could have built an empire on the ashes of our enemies. We chose differently. We chose to offer peace. We chose to offer equality. We chose to be better than what others believed we were. The Tarathi delegate shifted uncomfortably. His species had come very close to joining the war against humanity. Only fear had held them back. Now they sat as equals in a council they did not control. "The federation we are building today will be different from the assembly that came before," Yuna continued. "No species will be treated as lesser. No world will be exploited for the benefit of others. We will trade fairly. We will defend each other. We will build a galaxy where beings are judged by their actions, not their origin." After the speech, representatives from many species approached Yuna with words of support. Some seemed genuine. Others were clearly just trying to stay on humanity's good side. Yuna accepted all of them with the same calm smile she had worn through 3 centuries of diplomacy. General Lee Suho had retired after the war. He spent his days in a small house overlooking the ocean, far from the politics and planning that had consumed his life. But sometimes old friends came to visit. Dr. Yoon Bi was one of them. She had once been the scientist who created humanity's most terrible weapons. Now she led the Federation's research initiative, working on technology that would benefit all species. "Do you ever think about what we did?" she asked, sitting on Suho's porch and watching the waves crash against the shore. Suho was quiet for a long moment. "Every day. We killed millions of Valari. Not just soldiers, workers, civilians. People who had nothing to do with the attack on New Busan. Our weapons didn't discriminate. We tried to minimize casualties. Our targeting was as precise as we could make it. I know. And I also know that if we hadn't fought, if we hadn't shown what we could do, they would have kept taking from us until there was nothing left." Suho sighed. "War is never clean, Yoonbi. The best we can do is fight for good reasons and try not to become monsters in the process." "Did we succeed?" "I think so. The occupation of Valari space has been fair. We're helping them rebuild. Their children will grow up in a better galaxy than their parents knew." Suho smiled slightly. "That has to count for something." On New Busan, the reconstruction was nearly complete. The colony had been rebuilt larger and stronger than before. New families had moved in. Businesses had reopened. Life continued. As it always did, Captain Cho Mairu, promoted after her actions during the attack, visited the Memorial Plaza every month. She traced the names of friends and family carved into the black stone. She remembered their faces, their voices, their dreams that would never be fulfilled. Today she brought someone with her, a young Valari diplomat named Thiessen. He was the nephew of Thessex, the commander who had ordered the attack. Unlike his uncle, Thesan believed in peace between their species. "I cannot undo what my people did," Thesan said, his crystal voice soft with shame. "But I can try to make sure it never happens again. That is why I asked to come here. To see, to remember, to understand." Mira looked at him for a long moment. Part of her wanted to hate every Valari for what had happened. Part of her wanted to scream at this alien for daring to stand where her parents had died. But she thought about what President Jiwoo had said in her victory speech. She thought about the Federation and its promise of equality. She thought about the galaxy they were trying to build. "My parents are on this wall," she said finally. "They died in the first hour of the attack. I never got to say goodbye." Thesan's light dimmed. "I am sorry. Truly sorry. Sorry doesn't bring them back. Nothing brings them back." Mira took a deep breath. "But we can make sure their deaths meant something. We can build a galaxy where this never happens again." That's what they would have wanted. She extended her hand to the alien. After a moment of hesitation, Thesan took it. 10 generations later, the Galactic Federation was the most stable civilization in history. Wars between member species had become almost unknown. Trade flourished. Ideas flowed freely between worlds. Species that had once been enemies now worked together on problems that affected everyone. Humanity held no special place in the Federation. They were simply one voice among many, exactly as they had always wanted. But everyone remembered how the Federation had started. Everyone remembered the species that had been pushed down for 3 centuries and had risen to change everything. In the old Valari archives, historians found documents from before the war, intelligence reports, assessments of human capability, recommendations for how to handle the primitive species. One phrase appeared again and again: "No threat. Recommend continued exploitation." A human historian added a note at the bottom of the collection: "They were given every chance to treat us fairly. They chose differently. And when we finally stood up, they were shocked to discover that the species they had dismissed as weak had been preparing all along." The galaxy learned an important lesson from the human-Valari war. Never mistake patience for weakness. Never mistake kindness for inability. And never, ever underestimate humanity. In schools across the Federation, children of all species learned this history. They learned about the 3 centuries of patience. They learned about New Busan and the war that followed. They learned about the Federation that rose from the ashes, and in every telling, one question was always asked: why did the humans wait so long to fight back? The answer was always the same: because they hoped they wouldn't have to. Because they believed in peace. Because they wanted to give the galaxy every chance to do the right thing. And when the galaxy failed them, then they showed everyone what they were really capable of, and the galaxy never forgot. Outside the windows of Federation schools, stars shone in the endless dark. Somewhere among those stars, humans continued to explore, to build, to dream. They had gone from servants to equals, from victims to victors. From a small species on a small planet to builders of a civilization that spanned the galaxy. They had waited 300 years. They had fought for 3 weeks, and they had changed everything forever. The galaxy had realized it's too late what humanity truly was. It would never make that mistake again.